All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning class with Guy Finley. We are broadcasting live from Merlin, Oregon, and hello to our in-person audience, and welcome to our online audience as well, wherever you're tuning in from. We're glad that you joined us today. If this is your first time here today, the format will be that in just a moment I'm going to hand over the class to Guy, and he's going to give a 1-hour talk. We'll take a short 5-minute break and we'll come back for part 2, which is a really great part that you'll want to stay through the whole class. We have an open Q&A discussion with Guy. That'll be a time when you can participate, and if you're on GoToWebinar, you'll actually be able to raise your hand and speak with Guy directly if you wish. I'll tell you more about that when we get to that point in class. All together, we'll probably run for about 2 hours today, probably just around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So hope that you can stay for the whole class. If not, there will be a replay, and again, I'll tell you more about that later. For our folks in the room, if you could check your cell phones, please, and make sure that they are off or in silent position. And I think we're ready to get started. Oh, one quick note. If you have any tech issues, for those of you online, if you have tech issues, you can reach out to us in the question area, the chat box. You can email me at support@guyfinley.org, and we'll get you situated. All right, you ready, Guy? Here's our topic for this morning. Invite the divine to reorganize your life and realize liberation. Here's the key lesson. Realize the amount of pain in your impatience, and in that revelation, you will also know the extent to which you are deceived about who you are and the true purpose of your life.
Bring up part 2. Where's part 2? Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to those of you who are joining us live, and as strange as it seems, welcome to those of you who aren't here live. Well, it is pretty phenomenal, isn't it? Something can take place in one order of time and someone will enter into it in a different order of time, and yet, if understood properly, we're all in that moment understanding something that is timeless, and it's quite extraordinary to realize the benefit of what certain technological advances have made possible, to share a mind over time, when time has changed in one respect, but not changed at all, because if we hear and see and understand what is possible for us to see, hear, and understand, then we're all in the same place doing the same thing. I want to read the second key lesson, and then we're going to go into some important material that I hope you'll not just stay physically, but stay as attentive as you can. You know, you may not recognize it yet, but you can exercise your attention. And at some point, you're going to have to exercise your attention, because your attention is the connection, not just to this moment, but the will that gives rise to it. If you want to know anything of the will of the divine, you're going to have to be able to attend to the vine through which it flows into the branch and what comes out as a result of that marriage. Second key lesson. Nice deep breath. The vast majority of humanity views the ideal of spiritual rebirth as a prize to be claimed, some sort of special possession like winning a tropical island in a high-stakes lottery. But true rebirth is nothing of the kind. It is a distinct yet impersonal awareness of an eternal, intelligent awareness, a fearless and abiding patience burgeoning with expectation that is in the world of passing time, but not of it. We're all here in whatever shape or form that we are, longing for whatever we do with whatever clarity allows it. because there is something within us that recognizes that somehow we are not what we are meant to be. And trusting that you've expired the idea of some greatness by which suddenly people revere you, but a greatness that we suspect exists but that has yet to been revealed to us in its entirety, so that through the revelation we might realize something that lays within us, waiting for us to join our life to it, and that it may flow through us and give us the only freedom that is possible through it. To that end, if you've ever been an aspirant, but even if you've not, you've probably heard of ideas like self-observation, what it means to remember yourself, the idea of a witness consciousness. We're all familiar with these terms, aren't we? But in truth, we don't know much about that. We've read, and perhaps we've had some experience with separating and being able to see things that we ordinarily might not, as we talked about before class today. But I want to go into it in great depth with you, so that it becomes more than just an idea that you apply, but rather you find it constantly applying itself to you in your life in the moment of need, so that something indeed does go before you to make the crooked places straight, and you begin to find out that it is already within you and waiting to do so, but you must find out how to bring it into your life. So we need to cover a few things, and sometimes I sit and just trying to cover a few things before I give you the material, I wind up spending too much time on it. So I need you to work. I need you to be able to look at what I want you to see so that we can see the same thing. This is often why I ask you yes or no, so that we can be in agreement in this room. You know, throughout the centuries, the ages, churches, various religious disciplines, all had a form of which the congregation, the men and women gathering there, would sit and be in concert. In the Jewish tradition you watch, they call it daben. The people, when they hear something, you'll see them moving in agreement, their body in agreement with what their mind and heart feels. So there's a concert. I am what I can see. I am what I can see. Now, what does that mean? Yesterday with a few of the men I pointed out that you know in the ancient Native American traditions, the wisdom that came from that, which is all but gone, as was all true wisdom, basically buried on this planet. They would call the clouds, the trees, the rivers, the lakes, they would call them their brothers and their sisters. Why? Brother moon, sister sun. Why? Because in those traditions, to whatever extent it was true for those individuals, that man or woman could look out and they would realize when they saw that magnificent cloud that they were experiencing a part of themselves that they couldn't do otherwise. And so they understood, that is my brother. It is a reflection of a relationship that I have between myself and the Great Spirit that we share with the rivers, the lakes, the trees, everything. So that person understood, I am what I see. I see my brother. My brother is of the same mother, the same blood in one respect. Do you understand that? So we get some drift of that the observer is the observed when we look out at the world and see the world as it is in that moment. Yes or no? But that's one set of eyes. There is another set of eyes that recognizes that what I see, I can be. What I see, I can be. I'll never be the cloud itself, but all of its force, all of its glory, all of its power, everything that sits inside of that cloud that brings up in me the longing to be with it, awaits inside of me. So it's not just the form, it's the character and the quality of these things that are remembered in me when I see the reflection of my true self in these things around me. Tell me you understand that. Those are the eyes that this work is intended to open. so that I'm not just related to the world outside of myself and the occasional glimpse of some interior glory that I didn't create, but that I am part of its creation. Those eyes are what requires to be open. And the whole of the work is the opening of those eyes. That's the first stage. Christ called it metanoia, a new mind by which a new perception was possible, and therefore a new relationship with life. Nice deep breath now that I've set the stage. A beautiful soul, her name was Simone Weil. She's gone, well, physically. She wrote, "We do not obtain the most precious gifts by going in search of them, but by waiting for them." We do not obtain the most precious gifts by going in search of them, but by waiting for them. What are the most precious gifts? A kindness that isn't beckoned, a patience that can stand anything and everything and come out with more than it went into that moment with. A peace that is with you in all places, regardless of the problems that you may face or the people that present them to you. The wish to be alive. In the moment, with everything the moment gives. That's what that precious gift is. Not the wish to be someone else in some point of time because you obtained some gift you've imagined. And in order to see and be that man or woman who has made this transition from one level of being to another, as is the purpose of this existence, and without fulfilling it, it is a wasted existence. You want to know why the world is the wasteland that it is? Because men and women have told each other and passed down through time what the precious gifts are: power, possession, authority. How do I understand that idea of being able to wait for these precious gifts? And I've outlined the names of those gifts, but those names are not the thing. So let's look at it together. Nice deep breath. We'll get it go now. If I want these gifts, I have to live in the world where they're laid out. He prepares a treasure. Where are these gifts laid out? Why can't I see them? When, and you will one day understand, they've been spread out on a table in front of you your whole life. The gifts were never not there. Guess who wasn't at the party? To the naked eye, all creatures, micro and macro, even the galaxies themselves, to this naked eye, everything that we see seems separate. Everything we see seems separate because I am always the one in some relationship to what I see, wanting or not wanting it as it is. And yet we can see, as I outlined at the start, but I will do in greater depth now, through new eyes, which is the same as this capacity to observe, to witness, that all of life, with no exceptions whatsoever, is perfectly organized. And that something attends to that perfect organization that we do not see unfolding in front of us, because all we see is what we need to organize in our lives in order to be secure. So that every moment that I spend trying to organize my interior life is a moment wasted where I could be participating in an organization that existed way before I took this body and that will continue to exist after I abandon it. And to the point that all of life, if we can see it from bottom up, is constantly being rebalanced, healed, and perfected. You can see that in nature. We talk about it enough. I won't spend more time. Yes or no? There's an old Chinese proverb. It says, the flapping of the wings of a butterfly can be felt on the other side of the world. The flapping of the wings of a butterfly can be felt on the other side of the world. That idea alludes to this fact of this entanglement, of this ceaseless, unending connection of all creatures connected by an awareness and an intelligence that sees to each and all of these creatures in their individual form, and yet collectively sees that the creatures fulfill the purpose of the nature that they in turn are a part of. Do you see it with me? You can call that what you will. The name is not the thing. But it should be clear to us, if we've done any work at all, there is this overriding intelligence, a connective awareness. And please try to follow this now. How could I be aware of that if I weren't aware of it to some extent within myself? Yes or no? So that part of the feeling I have, if I have it at all, isn't because that I look out and see what I imagine to be this interior, ceaselessly connected excellence, but because somehow or other I am privileged to be a part of it. I couldn't see it if I don't have a part of it, if I'm not a part of it myself. Please? And that intelligence, that awareness, that light, it is organization itself. And everything that it expresses in time, the birds, the bees, the flower, the trees, the me that sees the birds, the flowers, the bees, that experiences all of that to whatever extent one does. All of that is a result of the fact that who and what I am is not apart from that organization, that divine organization. And when I live outside of that organization, I am what? Disorganized. Haven't you ever marveled at how disorganized your mind is? My God, some of you, it's unbelievable. Flying from this to that to the other and back and forth and time running around here, there. And each time a corresponding identity produced by a disorganized mind that's doing what all the time? What is the disorganized mind doing all of the time? It's mind-blowing that it can't see itself. And yet, it exists within something that can observe it. And that you and I are within that something that can observe that disorganization. And in the observation of the disorganization, by that awareness, what takes place automatically? The first separation, which is the beginning of organization, isn't it? Isn't it weird? Trying to put everything together so I'm not separate. Everything I do separates me. The more disorganized I am, the more fear I live in. The more fear I live in, the more free I try to become by organizing life so that I can walk through it as I've imagined myself being. It's breathtaking. Transition. Come on. So all of this unfolding, but for the most part, and it happens to be true. Do you remember Jeff Stacy, if you weren't online, and most of you, I don't know what you do or don't do, it's not my business, but you should be attending all of the study groups you can. he brought that radiometer or whatever that light bulb was with the little flags inside, remember? And you could see that thing responds to the power of light, that the photons in the light in that vacuum are able to move these little flags around. The brighter the light that touches it, the faster it spins. Do you remember that? So that's pretty clear. I'm sitting here. How many of your heads are spinning? I'm dizzy, but for all the wrong reasons. All that power. Not just the light of the sun. Did you know that before I'll finish this sentence, something like 100 gazillion trillion particles will pass through you? What do you think they're doing? Are you a bed and breakfast? They're part of this unbelievable activity of a celestial existence that ceaselessly acts on a terrestrial one. So that there are all these forces that come from the outside seemingly to act upon me. The weather, the temperature, the winds, the things that I can't see, all physical in one respect. And then you get to a place, by the way, where you'll start to understand, I don't know where the physical begins and ends. Because if everything touches me, then is there in fact another kind of body within me that isn't a physical body the way I think of it, but a subtle body, another order of intelligence that is capable of receiving and responding to the stimulation that it is intended to be stimulated by, so that it can be given life just as surely as my physical body is brought into existence through the experience of things working on it. Yes or no? Yes. So that our view, by and large, is that our experience of life, we can at least see with some sense of ourselves, is born out of something that is far greater than ourselves, that is working on us all the time. One day I'm going to go through some of the fun facts. And I don't have time to do it now, I'm just alluding to it. But those things that we see working on us are nothing compared to what is working within us. The fact is, you can't separate what is working on us from what is working within us. That's the fact. But we don't see life and understand that we are that we have the possibility of being sensitive to a ceaseless stirring so great, so unknowable, that it is what they used to call sitting in awe of the Lord. There's no way that you can understand what moves you, but when you are completely moved, you're part of the movement, and you don't care that you understand the way you think you need to understand now. You want to know everything that goes on, don't you? Don't you? What's that? What's that about? Now what does that mean? Ooh, I like that. Can I get a little more? One day that'll be it's a child that wants to know what passes through him. The spiritual adult understands that his or her identity is inseparable from the birth that takes place as all of these things come into and through us and reveal to us what they do, so that we might be released from any past identification with those parts of ourselves. Please, do you see it? Now, how do we know, because I'm not one for belief, how do we know that's true? That somehow or other, I as a man, you as a woman, are never-endingly being acted on from what we say is without, but we understand without is within. Part of the Hermetic teachings, isn't it? How do I know that's true? And that somehow or other, and this is if there's anything you could leave this life with, so that when you're dying, you understand you're not dying. You could understand this is all the movement of a singular organization, a celestial congregation of content, experience, all of it, one movement. And that it's always been that way, and I've never been outside of it. How can I know that is true? Not hope it's true. not bank on that possibility, but know for myself how that's true. You've all had the experience already. Haven't you ever wondered yet how it's possible that you can go 3, 5, 10, 50, maybe 75 years without seeing one thing about yourself that suddenly there it is, and then you see the reason you didn't see it is because you were too busy trying not to see it. Too busy trying to get this and do that to replace the pain of life with the presence of some kind of gift you imagine. You were so busy you didn't realize you were being given that gift every time some moment came to you that you didn't want to go through. What's the saying? When the student is ready? Well, how many times does the teacher have to appear in your life before you get the lesson? Can you say a gazillion? Like Doug was saying, how in the name of God did I not know how petty of a human being I am? How is that possible? How is it possible I've lived under the yoke of a fear that I never felt the pain of it? That I served anxiety willingly, believing that if I just served the Pharaoh, I'd be given freedom. How is that possible? Because there's no one there to see it. And then one day, please God, OMG, but not of the negative kind. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh. And it's, if you could go, and you can't yet, and in fact you'll never be able to, but one day it will resound within you, oh no and oh yes at the same time. The oh no will be a lot louder at first. But in the background, oh yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know how you got me here, because I was not about to bring myself here, but somehow, thank you. Yes or no? Let's bring up the third key lesson, please. Just as rain from the heavens starts with a single drop, so begins our journey to realize what is timeless with each first step. Just as rain from the heavens starts with a single drop, so begins our journey to realize what is timeless with each first step. Thank you. What if real life has arranged each of these first steps for us? Where every moment, though we don't see it yet, is the first step in continuing and developing our relationship with something that has organized the whole of life in that moment. For the sake of your discovery, where it is that you had stepped outside of that intelligence and called your actions good and wise, only to find out, as grace would have it, as karma, as justice, not negative. Do you know there's no such thing as negative justice? As justice would have it, there you are, and suddenly you see something that you cannot believe has taken place at that point in time and shown you what it has shown you. So that in that moment, I have come into it sound asleep. And by the way, let me explain something to you. Sleep, just like physical sleep is in stages, so is spiritual sleep in stages. Any moment that you are awakened, even when you are relatively awake, you are awakened to a sleep you didn't know you were in. A brighter light reveals the shadows of a lesser light. That's the miracle. But part of that miracle is that somehow Everything, see, it's hard to, I always try to help you see this big picture. Because if I can see a big picture, what does it mean? I've gained weight. Never mind. If I can see a big picture, it means that somehow I'm living from a bigger understanding, yes or no? So how for the whatever it is, and believe, I want to tell you something, science doesn't know squat. It really doesn't. We have made the world in the image of the consciousness that is afraid not to be able to define its surroundings so it can control them. What you and I are a part of is something so vast and infinite because of the way our mind sees it, that we can't comprehend that everything we can see with that mind is already part of the mind capable of that perception. So that the infinite of the universe, the cosmos, the light years from traveling from Alpha Centauri to Carl's Jr. I want to make the whole scope. You are that. And in its infinite intelligence, it never stops organizing everything so that anything within that infinite intelligence that still sits outside of it, imperfected because it hasn't been completed in that organization, is given what it needs in that moment, brought to the point where that moment can institute a reconciliation between that aspect of consciousness and that which has not yet joined the greater mind. That's what a lesson is. A little less of me, a little more of thee. Isn't that what the lesson is? And why does that happen? Because I'm not particularly interested in that me anymore. It's not like he's gone. But he doesn't have the authority that he used to have. And he doesn't have the authority he used to have because I'm under a new authority. And the new authority isn't that suddenly I am the one yielding the scepter and all the rest of that. The new authority is the light that shows me over and over again that something wants to bring me into its organization and that I'm foolish to try and reject the lessons that come, so that I am liberated according to the extent I'm willing to receive the revelation of the moment. Revelation and liberation are simultaneous and absolutely the same thing. Revelation and liberation, one and the same. See, you think there's a you that's going to be liberated. That's the problem. Don't you? One day I'm going to be free of this pain. You know when you'll be free of your pain? When you understand that everything that is pained within you is so that you can become aware of the process that produced it in time, so that something timeless may release you from your attachment to it. That's what liberation is. In the venom is the antidote, I think that expression goes. So, in those moments, try to see this with me, what I'm calling the first step. Isn't the first step in that moment the same as the last step? Have you ever wondered what it means, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end? I'm describing to you the Alpha and the Omega, your true nature, the first and last step simultaneously. The revelation, the realization, the release, and then a new form to go through that process again as part of this perfect process of organization, perfecting itself through its creatures and revealing its perfection to those creatures through their awareness of it. Please? Those moments help us see two things at once. Nice deep breath. Transition again. Where's my clock? Uh-oh. All right. First, those moments do what? They reveal to us a fact about ourselves that we did not know, a truth about ourselves. And part of the truth of that is, I can't believe I never saw that. It was there all that time. So that truth, that first step, involves that unconscious nature being made aware of where it was asleep to itself. That's the first step. Do you see that? And in that first step, that individual begins to realize through a shock that he or she can no longer agree as wholeheartedly as they did before to remain asleep. I know I go to a family reunion and I'm going to want to prove myself to my family. I know I get in my car and somebody's going to do something, and one way or the other, I'm going to let them know how unhappy I am with their behavior. I'm talking to somebody and they just don't stop talking, which means I don't get to talk. So I'm always breaking into conversations. Anything that you see takes place in that moment where you realize now I'm going to have to go into these moments with a slightly different wish to remember myself, because I know that when I don't remember myself, I'm living from something that is living out its memory at my cost, and that's my relationship with everybody. Yes or no? But secondly, apart from that and yet connected to it, is that in that moment, this is a very important point, in that moment where I see that there is something that I have been outside of, an organization and an intelligence that awareness unifies in order to produce some transformation in myself. When I see that that organization takes place and that it is what I need, what happens to me? I am reorganized. I am reorganized. The word remember means to pull the members together. To reincarnate is to bring that which is back into existence again. Only in this instance, we're not bringing what existed before into existence again. We are bringing an end to that. Because we see with great clarity, to whatever extent it's true, that I get it. Boy, if you can put thy will be done, not mine. You organize this moment, not me. Because you organized everything that has come before this moment. So that I could go through myself being reorganized, reborn. Reborn. Why? Because I'm being reorganized moment to moment to moment. Because a new set of influences, a new order of energy, a new kind of spirit continues to touch my soul, so that in some respect, one way or another, I see the incessant, deep need to let what the moment is bring it, so that I can sit in it and understand my responsibility to be reorganized is to my willingness to see the whole of the moment as it wants to reorganize me and bring me into its divine organization. There's only one divine organization, and it's not in any church, any temple, it's not in any teacher, it's not in any book. You're sitting in it. You wouldn't exist without it. You just don't know how to attend to it yet, which is what we're working towards now. So that revelation, the need, you can say it in different ways, to sell all, to die to myself, to lose my life. That reorganization is the product of what? What is it that's actually reorganizing me? How do I participate? What's the instrument of my reorganization, of my rebirth? I'm using those words synonymously, yes? What's the instrument of that? The light of awareness. Awareness is the organizing principle, and apart from it, I can only be disorganized, organizing myself according to what my mind says I need to be aware of, Do you see that? Yes? Please? Can you think of any point in your life where in one way or another that catalyst didn't take place? Where some real change? How many of you had a real change in your life? To some extent, I know you have. What produced that? Did you produce it? No. It happened when, by and large, I was going, no, no, no. But fortunately, something inside of me is going, okay, yes, yes, yes. Wait, let's do this. When did it happen? When I couldn't look away anymore. You may not think to yourself that you actually turn away from redemption, from rebirth, from being reorganized, from being liberated. How many of you think to yourself, you look away from the moment where you're being liberated? You don't think that, do you? Do you? Well, what are you looking at in those moments? I'm looking at what I need to liberate me. I'm looking at tomorrow. Looking at the new man, the new woman. I'm looking at the money. I'm looking at some way in which, even though I'm 1,000 years old, I can look like I'm 100. Just for you, Babs. No, I can't look away anymore. What does it mean to look away? Justification. Complaining. Explaining yourself. Isn't all of that a way in which I look away? Because aren't I doing that to avoid or otherwise escape the circumstance that has been organized for me in that moment that I might go through this transformation? Yay or nay? We couldn't know in that moment that we were right in the place we had to be in order for what needed to take place could take place in us. Everything I'm leading up to now. So I want to put everything together. Those moments that I don't want, feeling sorry for myself, overwhelmed, angry, impatient, disappointed, frustrated, you fill in the blank. Those moments when they come to me, all I know to do in those moments, please now, is to allow the reaction to try to reconcile itself through a desire that appears as part of the appearance of that reaction. Do you understand? Have a reaction, what I don't want, what I don't like. On the heels of that, coming out of it, rises up this thing that I desire. Because when I get what I want, I won't be suffering anymore what I don't want. So that desire comes out of that reaction. And then out of that desire comes what? Eventually some image. An image of who you need to be, what I need to do, where I need to go. The image appears almost simultaneously with the desire. Actually, the desire is the image former. The desire is the image former. Eventually, the images become so ingrained and conditioned in us that they appear by themselves. You don't even see it. But the desire and the image are a simultaneous appearance. And when I have the image, what do I do then? I wait on it. Whether you know it or not, I worship it. All of my attention goes to it, doesn't it? What I've imagined. So that I'm always waiting on what I've imagined to take place, so that when I wait long enough and make the effort that I need to make, so that in time what I'm waiting on will finally appear, then I'll be free. This is an important passage in what we're looking at. Do you see it? I'm waiting on you to be a different person. I'm waiting on the world to be a different place. Now, I don't say that I'm just waiting, I'm active. But what am I active doing? Waiting on a time to come when I won't be tormented anymore by whatever triggers me. Please, do you understand that? That's what we do. But we must understand that waiting on a world and a time that has been invented by the mind is how that mind keeps us trapped in that world, waiting on things that never come to pass, ever. Transformation is now. Transcendence is now. Rebirth is not in a time to come. You don't wait on rebirth. Boy, I get into a rant here if I would let myself do it. What the world has done to the beautiful, original teachings of men and women who in time saw what I'm describing to you is beyond disgusting. The corruption of the original content of that discovery between a human being and the divine that was intended to be passed along verbally, individual to individual, and put into books and all of the rest of the nonsense that people could hit you over the head with and tell you, here's what this means, so that over time it's all corrupted to such an extent that no one even understands that what they're waiting on is the source of their pain and why they're still waiting for God to come in their life, because they live from a godless mind that understands nothing at all about what it means to be in relationship with the true and divine. This consciousness is godless, save for the fact that were it not for God, there would be no consciousness to be godless. So that within that darkness dwells a light that doesn't understand it. I'm taking you full circle. You following me? I'll pull back now. In those moments where that change took place, did it happen because I rushed out and I was waiting on something? Or did I finally realize that I can't wait on anything like this anymore? I keep waiting on you to be different so I can be different for like 3 billion years. I keep waiting on the world to see what I need them to see so that the world will no longer trigger me. And one day I realized I can't wait on anything anymore. And if I can't wait on something, this is what I'm alluding to. What is it that I must do? I must learn to wait within the awareness of that. I must learn to wait within the awareness of this consciousness that can never free itself. I must wait within it. When I was working over this, thinking about what does that mean, I realized that there were, over time, over thousands of years, and I don't have time to go into all of it, how many of you have heard the expression, wait on the Lord? Now, first of all, the real meaning is not wait on. The original language is to wait as a partner with, to wait within, wait with. So there was, when I started looking at this, there's over 150 times individually where the words wait on, wait upon, in Old and New Testament. And there are other examples in other teachings. I'm going to go through these quickly because they all apply. Nice deep breath. We can relax a little bit. And again, to wait, again, I'll reiterate, to bind, to weave together, not apart, waiting on something, but to join in something. So here's from Lamentations. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Exodus, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Proverbs, do not say, I will repay evil. Wait for the Lord, he will deliver you. Hebrews, Abraham waited patiently and received what God had promised. The Psalms, be strong and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. Psalms again, they quickly forget his works. They did not wait for his counsel. They quickly forget his works. They did not wait for his counsel. That's one of my favorites. Lao Tzu, do you have patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Islamic, be patient. Surely God's promise is true. And there are over, like I say, 150 iterations of this, and all of them relate to this idea of fear not. All of them connected to the end of fear. How do I know where the end of fear is? When I wait within that which is fearless and forever freeing itself from the consciousness that believes fear can protect itself. How do we practice that? That's what we're talking about, isn't it? It's not a pretty picture, but do you know what it means to run around like a chicken with its head cut off? If you've ever been to a farm, you know exactly what that means. I remember when I was a boy, most shocking thing ever happened. We went to my grandmother's ranch up in Washington, and Grandpa said, we're going to have chicken. I said, oh boy. I was thinking of, Kentucky Fried or something like that. And he goes out and he beheads this chicken, and it was unbelievable. It was so shocking. Do you understand that you run around every time something happens that you don't want? Every time a moment looks like it's not going to unfold as you had organized life to unfold that way? What do? I insist upon reorganizing the moment. I got to fight with you. I got to change this event. I've got to be a micromanager. I've got to control everything around me at all points in time. How many of you are control freaks? We all, you may not think because maybe you're not actively a control freak. Every sleeping human being is a control freak. Just that some of us are more irritating than others. Right, Chrissy? How do we practice this universal Is it not a universal instruction? Have I explained sufficiently that there is this universal instruction, that in the moment itself is an invitation? And the invitation is not to try and reorganize the moment according to my preferences, but to allow the moment to show me I've entered into it unorganized. And that all of my resistance is the attempt to hide from myself where it is that I am unorganized and believe that I am. And so I use anger to prove how organized I am. Does that sound wise to you? To use a fan to straighten out a stack of papers? What would that new practice look like? And boy, do not get into this image and sentimentality and false consolation. I'm waiting on the Lord. Every sleeping, irritated, angry Christian, Jew, Muslim across the board is all concerned with this idea that at some point in time, if I wait on the Lord, something's going to happen. I remember whatever it was, how many years ago we were in Ohio. I was teaching there. I'll never forget this. I got a phone call from a student, like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And I go, what's the problem? I'm going to be evicted. What? Yeah, I'm going to be evicted and I have no food. What are you talking about? Well, you said to wait on the Lord. You said if I just wait, everything will be given to me. That's like Nicodemus saying, do you mean that you're going to go back in the birth canal and come out again? That's what rebirth is? This has nothing to do with being the passive, sleeping human being that presently lives inside of us. This has everything to do with becoming newly active in the sense of wanting to be aware of how everything with me is to wait on something. Where tomorrow I won't be afraid. Where tomorrow I'll do this differently and I won't suffer the result of being inadequate or inconsistent. All of that tomorrow. There is no tomorrow for the true spiritual student. There is only understanding that the task in every moment that I can be made aware of it, because for the most part, boy, I gotta cook. For the most part, we are so passive because things aren't happening to stir and trigger us into finding something new to wait on. So I'm literally waiting on something that will be acted on so I can wait on something else. And I don't really know I'm waiting on it until something shows me that didn't work, what you're waiting on. You better invent something else to wait on. That's what we call the major upheavals in our life. Every moment of life is an upheaval. But not in the negative sense. See, you immediately take that as negative. Isn't the little blade of grass that pushes through the ground, isn't it an upheaval? Something new being born, stirring that which was set, and now what is set will serve what broke through it. So that every last one of those moments is this upheaval from the interior to the exterior, from what is timeless into what is in time. That's how we're meant to live. Everything coming in and our realizing that all that's coming in simply wants to reorganize us, organize us as a part of life as opposed to apart from it and punished by it. Do you see the wisdom in what we've been talking about? So that rather than waiting on what we imagine is going to free us, what do? We wait within the awareness that allows us to see we were never a captive of anything other than our attachment to what we were waiting on and the consciousness responsible for it. Yes? So I've just spent 52 minutes explaining to you what I would call my very favorite exercise. Wait and see. But listen to me. Not wait and see like in time what happens, because in time will reveal the intelligence of waiting. But wait and see is an active practice. Wait and see all that I can see within me in that moment. Wait and see how I react and want to justify what I have waited and seen inside of myself. So that there is a ceaseless position of witnessing the consciousness that is unaware of itself, because I understand if I can witness the consciousness that is aware of itself, lo and behold, I am at once part of that awareness that is reorganizing the relationship I've had with that consciousness. You able to follow that sentence? Wait and see what will happen if I let the Lord, if I let the divine do its work. Do its work. See, you want to be someone. You do. You want to be someone. You want to be someone that knows God. You want to be someone who's free. You want to be someone who's got stuff, who's spiritual. You want to be someone with an astral body. You want to be someone who's out of the mind. You're traveling. You want to be somebody. You can't be more than God has made you. And God has not made you in the past tense. You can't be more than God makes you. And your relationship in the revelation of what you are being made into, of what is making you. Can you be made into something without something acting on you? So what am I made into now? I'm made in my own image. Only I deny what I'm made into, and that's part of the image, to refuse to see and be responsible for the fact the reason I'm a wreck and afraid and anxious and so full of self-loathing is because I don't look anything like what I made myself into, so I got to make myself again. What if I realize I got to stop making myself? Which is what you have to realize. But why is that so hard? Why is that so hard? Well, who am I going to be? See, right to the root of the problem. Who am I going to be if I don't have a graven image? Closing this up with a kind of exercise, wait and see, you understand, as a present act, not one divided up in time. Because I already know the questions, part of why I did that. Someone's going to ask, as sure as I'm sitting here, they won't now because I've done this, how long do I have to wait? That's in your mind all the time. Okay, watch, I'm bearing this. I'm bearing this. I'm bearing this. I am bearing this. I'm bearing this. Then the voice in the head goes, how long do I have to do this? And you go, I don't know. I hope not too much longer. Me too. You're not bearing anything then. You're crushing yourself with your own demand that you bring an end to what has shown itself to be not you. What is that passage out of the New Testament? My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Try to see it. My yoke, I've told you, that means my yoke is easy. I bring the opposites together. That's what the light does. That's what a yoke represented. The two creatures. How do I learn to wait, bind myself with the divine organizer? How do I learn to do that? One of my favorite sayings In your patience possess ye your soul. In your patience possess ye your soul. The regional meaning of the word patience is in your willingness to suffer your impatience. In your willingness to not complain, but to observe the complainer until you see something about the complainer. We don't have time to make a list. I was going to go through it. Talk about wait and see. Wait and see what? What happens if I don't what? If I wait and see instead of rushing to get to what I imagine, what do I get to see if I don't rush? What do I get to see? But it's so painful, which is why I rush. If I don't rush to judgment, what do I get to see? If I wait instead of judging, what do I get to see? Is there any doubt in you that there's a judge that lives inside of you, incessantly judging? If I don't make that sarcastic remark, that criticism, even if I swallow it, because some of us think that's what it means to be spiritual, just repress the attack. No, that's not what it means to be spiritual. To be spiritual doesn't mean to repress or suppress. It means to observe, to witness, to wait within the consciousness, in the awareness of it, so I see what kind of nature is this that can't wait to hurt you even though you're hurting already. Wait and see. In my patience, I will consciously suffer myself and wait within that suffering. And when I wait consciously within that suffering, what happens to that suffering and that consciousness I've been waiting within? What happens? The light reorganizes it. Awareness is the organizing factor. Participate in that awareness and watch how your life is shown and reorganized according to what you're given to see. The basic exercise is wait and see. But underlying it is my willingness to see. I'm always waiting on this and waiting on that, waiting for tomorrow. Have you ever, how many times do you think to yourself, God, just get through the next, week? Because this is like unbelievable. No, wait a minute, it's not going to be a week, Guy. Because there's that, then there's the thing after that week. Wait on that. Yeah, that's right, I'll wait on that. No, wait a minute. By that time, I'm going to be older. I'm going to be more tired. So I don't want to wait on that too long. I better push this ahead. Yes? Catch yourself pushing things. Step back. Wait and see what happens when you give up the pusher. We'll take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to second part of class. We're going to have an open Q&A discussion with Guy now. We're going to go ahead and get started with that in just a moment, but I have a couple of announcements first before we bring Guy back on. So first of all, I just wanted to let you know that all of these classes are recorded, and you can find the replays in several places. You can go to our GoToWebinar channel, which is guyfinley.org/channel. That actually is sort of the all-inclusive replay, and you'll see that we have replays going back several years there. We also just, at the start of this year, we started broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube as well, and the replays are on those, on our accounts there as well. So if you are on Facebook, you would just go to the video section. If you're on YouTube, there's a tab that says live, and all of the replays that we've been doing on those places as well can be found there. And so you can get a hold of these after class if you ever want to go back and watch something again. We also actually, one of the things that we do as well here on this end is that we have a note taker, someone who takes bullet point notes throughout the class, and we put them into a file called Talk Takeaways, and that gets sent out with the replay email. You also can go to our website. There's an archive of all the talk takeaways from all the classes there as well. So that's a nice study guide if that's something you would like to print. So just look for the replay email that goes out for each class. If you're not on our email list, you can get signed up at guyfinley.org/newsletter. So that's something to keep in mind. That also just keeps you in the loop about all sorts of events going on and all the offers that we have, et cetera. Along those lines, let me just tell you too about a couple of quick things. So if we are a nonprofit organization here, and all of the work that we do, all the proceeds that we get from the sales from our store, from our online wisdom school membership, from donations, all of that goes right back into this work. Guy himself doesn't take a penny for a salary. Everything is just put right back into this work to try and get these ideas out into the world as far as we can. So if you'd like to make a donation to help us with that, we certainly would appreciate it. We actually have a nice little promotion going on right now. If you were to make a $10 donation or more on our website, you would get this free package that would automatically go into your cart. It's called 3 Conversations with Guy Finley, and it's 3 really stellar interviews that Guy has given over the years that we've put together into this nice package with transcripts that go along with each of those talks as well. And so that's just something nice for you, a way to support us and then get something nice in return. In order to get that package, you can go to guyfinley.org/package, and you'll see some donation buttons there on the page, and just walk through our cart, and that will take care of it for you. If you have any questions or problems with that, just reach out to us. And we certainly appreciate all the support that our many supporters have given us over the years. And there are other ways to help us as well. If you would like to, even be more of a supporter, you can go to guyfinley.org/donate, and you'll see that you can do a monthly donation. Scroll down on that page, and you see other ways that you can help support the work that don't cost you a penny. So do check that out. And again, we certainly do appreciate it. And all donations are tax deductible in the U.S. And then finally, I just want to tell you about a special event that's coming up, it's a week from Thursday. So about every 6 months or so, Guy does this special Zoom event with the New Renaissance Bookshop. It's sponsored by this bookshop up in Portland here in Oregon. And they sponsor it. They put on this Zoom event, and you're welcome to participate. And the next one that's coming up is Thursday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And it's just a really nice atmosphere, and we get a lot of great folks who all tune in, and it's similar to what we do here, where a guy gives sort of an hour-long talk, and then we have an open discussion afterwards. And if you're interested in participating in that as well, you can go to guyfinley.org/ticket. That actually redirects you to the New Renaissance page, where you would pay a small donation of $10 in order to get a ticket for that. You can actually go ahead and sign up for it, even if you don't think you'd be able to attend the event live. They do send out the replay of the event afterwards, so you would still get a hold of the replay if you are interested in that. So again, guyfinley.org/ticket, and that will take you to the New Renaissance website where you can sign up. Hope to see you there. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our Q&A. I have several written questions, Guy, but what would you like to do? Do you have any remarks that you want to start with?
No.
No? Okay.
I mean,
All right.
I
I'm
always
gonna
have
go.
a remark, but let's just see where the day takes us.
All right. I didn't actually hear what you said, but I'm going to go ahead and start with this question that was left over from our last class on Wednesday. We have two leftover questions. I'll send this first one here to you, Guy. It's from Susanna. So Susanna had asked at the time at Wednesday's class, is shutting the door the same as resistance?
Let's be clear, Susanna. Who in their right mind would say to that which is divine in its nature, I don't want you to help me organize my life? Only something that was not divine would shun the revelation required for its release and liberation into a completely different order of life. So all of that is to say that it isn't you who resists and it's not you who shuts the door. It is a consciousness that cannot bear the light that reveals it as being the disorganized, corrupted, broken, divided nature that it is. That's what shuts the door. It can't afford for any of its images to be challenged. So what we call resistance is its knee-jerk conditioned response to revelation. And then the resistance, we say, then we shut the door. No, the resistance is the shutting of the door. Opening the door is seeing that and allowing it to remain open, waiting with the door open. On we go.
All right, we have a couple hands up in the queue, but I also had another leftover question from Wednesday that I wanted to get in here, and this was from Brooke. Brooke asks, I'm currently looking fear and uncertainty in the face. I am leaving my career without anything lined up. Any tips while I try to navigate these very stressful next couple of months?
We all have moments where a certain liberating revelation, certain kind of lesson makes its way through all of the undergrowth and pops its little bright little head up, and we see, I often tell students here, Brooke, when they come up to speak, when they're in a right eye, meaning when they are speaking from something that has been awakened and that wants to further participate in that perfect moment that gave them that epiphany. I often tell them, what do I often say to those people? I say, don't forget that feeling. There are moments in these major transitions in our life where we have had the indication, we've felt the impulse to make a change. And then within a day or two, all of the voices find their way into our heads, start telling us, well, what about this and what about that, and I don't know, and what if it doesn't work out? And then that one little part of us that appeared as part of something that was waiting for that to re-enter into an organization without fear. An organization without fear. That's also, that's almost, what do they call that? An oxymoron. An organization without fear. Organizations are fear. Any organization in the world in which people depend upon, believe in, and wait on to liberate them, as in the time when I finally get this or get that, that is the very essence of fear. So what I would do were I were you, I would sit down, I would have a real heart-to-heart little chat with my notebook, and I would write down as clearly as I can why it is that I know I need to do this. Because as soon as those voices appear, I will then see life through the eyes of that consciousness, and it will show me all the reasons why I better wait. Wait on a better time. Do you see all this ties together? There's no better time to wait on. when you have had the invitation through the revelation of a need to make a change. And don't think in terms of big changes. She's making a big change. How about the need to change? How many times am I going to look at my laptop and let fear run through me because what I'm looking at doesn't look what I've been waiting on? At some point I have to recognize, you know what, I'm definitely waiting on the wrong thing. Charlie, I just pointed out the door. I've been waiting on the wrong thing. And if I'm not going to wait on anything, what am I going to do now? I'm going to wait within. That's my answer. On we go.
All right, we have 2 hands up. We have Mary Lynn and then Jane, and I also have 3 written questions.
Great.
And if anyone in the room wants to go up to the mic, you can do that as well. But we'll start with Mary Lynn here first. Yep, Mary Lynn, you were unmuted and then you muted yourself, so unmute yourself again.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. I see the people pleaser in me. And perhaps I think I've been like that my whole life. But if I see it, why don't I change? And I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Because Mary Lynn, let's change the language. I suspect it. I don't see it. That's where it begins. I got to start looking in the direction that some instruction is giving me because the repeated events are the same. I suspect that something in me hasn't changed. Not, I think I see it, why hasn't it changed? Who was I talking to about this yesterday? Was it in our Facebook lunch yesterday? When I see something, it doesn't mean I think about it. When I see something, I am aware to whatever extent it's possible for me to be aware of in that moment. I am aware of how that tastes, what it's doing, how it's always been there, why it's always there that way, how many excuses it has. One more justification, just one more tip of the bottle, and I'll get through the next day. When you see it, Mary Lynn, you see the pain, the fear of being rejected, and how you are rejecting forth that identification with the fear of the divine organization that would liberate you from it. You'll then actually begin to have moments where something will happen, someone will come to you. How many of you know you enable people? That's what people pleasing is. I'm getting ready to enable somebody. I say, no, wait a minute. I keep waiting on this relationship to solve it. It's not like it's I'm not, okay. Instead, I'm going to wait in this awareness, and I am not going to do what I've always done. And how many times do I go through that and find myself wiggling, squeezing through, finding some angle by which, not today, this won't be the opportune time to do this. Maybe tomorrow I'll stop worrying. Maybe tomorrow I'll stop saying yes when I want to say no. And to witness that, does that tomorrow ever come? No, it can't come. Because that thing that is awakened in the moment of that relationship, it is brought into the world where it only exists to wait on something and then judge itself for its weakness. When did I give the talk on Risk It? Was that Insight Timer? Mary Lynn, they put those up, don't they? Yeah. Go listen to the Insight Timer from yesterday. Yes. I'm so confused. Risk It, Mary Lynn. It's not up yet. It'll be up in a day or two. Risk it. You want to know how to see something? That was the whole Insight Timer. Risk it. You want to know how prevalent and punishing is the complainer in you? Risk zipping the lip. You want to know how judgmental of yourself you are? Risk not identifying with hating yourself because you fail at something. Risk it. When you risk it, you'll realize it. On we go.
All right, we're going to go to Jane in the queue next, and then I have those 3 written questions. So here's Jane.
Is that Jane's last name in the queue?
Yeah, Jane, those 3 written questions.
She's French.
Hello, Guy.
Jane in the queue. Hi,
Hi.
Hi, Jane. Hi.
This is Jane in the queue.
Jane in the queue.
Yes. Guy, I had a bit of a report that I wanted to give you today.
All right.
I would also like to say, after listening to this talk, wait and see, and all that was involved, it ties in, I think, very much with what I was already going to speak to you about.
Good.
So the beginning is to say thank you for your Mother's Day present.
You're welcome.
And if you remember, I called on Mother's Day, and your talk was about the seer.
I do remember. It wasn't offered as a present. It was offered as something present to your state, and that became a present for you as you understood it. So what else? That's good. That's what life is. You know, as a quote-unquote teacher, all I do is help you see what is in front of you all the time that you're just reluctant to see. And lots of times you can't see it for your life. And maybe it'll take a week, a month. Some people, it takes 20 years to actually see that whoever that man was. I remember we used to have up on the wall in the old work, when the pain gets too bad, come back. It wasn't a popular sign. But there does come a day when you realize, you know what? I do fawn. I do lie. I am petty. And then you'll be so tired of saying I, you'll want to understand what was being discussed, so that instead of saying I to those things that limit you, you can understand the limiting consciousness that has to have an I to make itself feel whole and real. So, happy Mother's Day again. What else, Jane?
Well, you haven't heard what I have to say, because it really was more of a present than you know.
Good. Let's have the whole McGillicuddy.
Okay, I'll try to be quick.
As brief as you can.
You understood that on Mother's Day, my situation of having been estranged from my only child for over 2 years, it's a difficult time.
Yes.
And I mentioned that the talk you spoke about the seer, I would really need this, and you understood and agreed.
Yes.
So the next day, after Mother's Day and talking with you, I got a card from my daughter. Uh-huh. And it said, I'm wondering if ever you and Dad will find it a place to bring me back in your lives. And this was a shocking card, because what has happened was exactly the opposite. She ended the relationship. We told her, well, anyway, cut to the chase there.
Stay away.
I emailed her and I said, it's strange that we can have two such disparate understandings of what happened, but your father and I love you and you've always been welcome. And then, as my nature had to do, it had to copy an exact email proving my point and what we had said. So the response to that was a usual one, silence. And then came the seer part. And your words somehow resonated, that the treasure within, there's a kingdom within you where the treasure is. And the missing half of the moment is the seer. Give your attention to the seer. Yes. Go out in the sea. Somehow that enabled me to think about what had happened. And I thought, this card was so strange, but maybe this was the only way she actually could reach out, even though it was backwards and upside down. So I invited her for lunch. And after a brief back and forth, yesterday she was here for lunch. And it was a clean new start. Yeah. I don't have expectations. I don't know what will happen, but I know that happened. And I know it's partly at least due to you.
Repeat after me. And everybody, you do it too, but you use your name. Ready? Everything
Everything
is better
is better.
Jane.
I missed, what did you say? Everything is better, Jane?
Without Jane.
Oh, definitely. Oh, how true.
All right, Jane, I'm glad for you. Stay awake. Try not to mess it up.
Okay, Guy.
All right. I'll talk to you again. Let's go on, Kate. It's uncanny, isn't it? Here we go.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question that came in from Moria. She asked this kind of early on, and then she added another part to it, so I'll just read the whole thing. Asking the divine to reorganize my life, how do I recognize and stabilize these gifts so my life situations begin to mirror those changes? And then later she said, interesting, he's talking now about my next question. I wanted to know how to sort through all the wrong answers so I can clearly hear the divine and only divine. No beliefs, no gurus, no new age mumbo jumbo.
I address again this idea, a mistaken perception, unavoidable because of the way our consciousness separates us out from everything that we interact with. I don't ask the divine, although I would say again, there's so many stories through the old teachings. How can there be a wrong prayer if my heart longs to have a relationship with the heart of hearts? Does it matter how I say it? Does it matter the words I use? Or is the original intention that which produces an attention and a relationship? So if I have to sit and pray at night, please God, reorganize my life, then let me do that. But in the end, if you were to do that religiously, meaning not mechanically, but heartfelt, you would begin to catch a glimpse of, here I've asked God to reorganize my life, and the very first thing I'm doing this morning is trying to fix him, go there and get that done so that everything's organized the way I want it to be. And then I suffer because half of that works and half of it doesn't. And then I get into bed at night again and I say, please God, reorganize my life. And at one point I realize I've got to stop talking and start doing. And not doing in the sense of action, but action in the sense of seeing. Then the reorganization is taking place because I'm participating in another order of will by surrendering my own in that moment when it wants to wait on what it's imagined. So that's the first part, Moria. And when you do that, you won't have to sort through the wrong answers. You'll hear them as they come up. Because anything that you can hear in your mind as an answer, by and large, will be an incomplete answer and will only lead you to waiting on what that answer has identified as necessary. You can't, take a nice deep breath. You can't know in advance what you need. Shocking, isn't it? Because that's all I think about. All I know is to wait on what I think I need. God knows what you need before you know it. And by and large, what you need, you don't want. And when you see that what you need, you don't want, then that observation will organize your mind in such a way that you'll begin to recognize, I need to wait on what I don't want so I can become aware of the wanter. Then you have some freedom. On we go, Kate.
All right, we have two hands up in the queue, so I'm going to go to Dwight, and we'll bring him in here. There you go, Dwight. You need to unmute on, there you go.
Hey, Guy.
Hi, Dwight.
How are you doing? I wanted to talk about a little anecdote that happened to me Friday that's about seeing, I had to go to the dentist and have some gum work. And so what I've been trying to do is leave my iPhone in the car. Don't take this thing with me. Try to be present. Try to watch myself. Try to be practice the presence and stuff,
Yes.
which is difficult anyway, you know. So I'm in there sitting, and it was real revelatory to me. There was a bunch of people in there, and they were so attached to their iPhones,
No.
and they couldn't even, they weren't even aware that they weren't aware. It was amazing for me to see this because they were gone, totally gone, not aware of each other, not aware of themselves, not aware of where they are. And I thought, well, thank God I can try to stay present. I'm not criticizing them because it's hard enough to be present with your own mind, which wants to jack with you all the time. So, but anyway, it's pretty revelatory to me, and especially in a situation that I didn't particularly want to be in because the gum work was kind of difficult.
Look,
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
that's good. You have a chance in that moment to bring with you something you can remember in the moments that follow. There they are, sound asleep. And there I'll be tomorrow or tonight at my restaurant table or with my friends, glued to that silly instrument, hoping that something's going to come along and bring up a sensation of myself that I want, or, and I don't really care, give me something to do that I don't want to deal with. Makes no difference as long as I can have something that what I was waiting on not work out, or waiting on something that can, given the circumstances. There are very precious moments, Dwight, where you realize you're the only person in that room, in that street, in the city, in that state, who actually knows that you're there in it. On we go, Kate.
All right, we're going to go to Robert next. Go ahead, Robert, you're unmuted.
I came across something that's a real motivator for me, and that is self-remembering and doing my best to do.
Yes.
I'm seeing colors more clearly. I'm hearing sounds more crisply. It's not imagination.
No.
And it's opened up other things, and almost simultaneously, at least yesterday, it's like one center got out of the way of the other. I saw hardness and self-centeredness
Yes.
exposed, which are elements of being closed, right?
Yes.
And so a new sensitivity
Yes.
was brought to me
Yes.
at that point,
Yes.
and want more of that.
Yeah, that's precise. The relationship that one has with the moment is entirely dependent upon the extent to which the energy of one is fragmented or united. And the more united the energy, the more whole the ability to attend to the moment, the more we realize what was already in the moment, waiting to teach us something about ourselves, that which is light and bright and that which is dark and self-serving. So those are valuable comments. Keep up your work, Robert. On we go, Kate.
All right, I just sent a question to you from Beatrice. She says, blessed are we who are able to be present to today's message. Thanks, Guy, and everybody present. So, mind works in function of temporality, and soul recognizes the now, which is the eternal, and there's a merge between them, and we invite God to reorganize.
Yeah. Not an empty invitation, and it doesn't have RSVP at the end. It's filled with our understanding for the need to put the first that is first in the last place and what is last in the first place. There is nothing to be created in you that doesn't already exist. God has put the need for God in you. You don't have to create the need. You just have to awaken to everything that is supplying you and substituting that need. There is suffering in all forms of imitation and substitution because there is the awareness, whether you know it or not, of the fact that that is not the real deal. The closer you become to recognizing and waiting within this nature that is always substituting each moment with something that it wants or doesn't want, the freer you are from that consciousness and the more contentment is revealed as already being a part of your consciousness. Have a good week. Remember your exercise. Perhaps we'll cover some more of that on Wednesday. Bye. Students. Oh yeah, students, thank you. The floor is open. If you want to stay with us, we have students who come up and from time to time share something, including a dialogue that we might have, and if there's no students, then I'll say, fare thee well. Come on, Eric. Thank you, Doug. I forget.
Good morning. My name is Eric. About 2 years ago, most of you know, I went through all the Shakespeare plays and sonnets. And what I would do, I was looking for treasures, and I found hundreds, directly related to esoteric work. And what I did, I wrote them all down, typed them all down, and then I went to websites that are pretty popular and went through what are the popular quotes and passages. And surprisingly, 95% weren't there. In other words, what I found valuable was not popular. Like this one that I'm going to read. But, these words to me are on fire. And they've been rolling around in my head for the past week or so, and I'm just seeing them everywhere. And I'm almost interrupting Guy saying, you got to read this. That probably wouldn't go over really well in your talk.
But I'm glad you're sharing it now.
But, you said it today, yes and no at the same time. And that's what this is. It's also more of thee, less of me, and the prodigal son, all of it. And here it is. His overthrow heaped happiness upon him. For then, and only then, he felt himself and found the blessedness of being little. And to add greater honors to his age than man could give him, he died fearing God. And you all know that fearing God isn't what the world thinks that means. It could be strength of his relationship with God or surrendered properly. Imagine, and not the blessedness of being little like you imagining it, but by seeing.
Yes.
Seeing and then just the action of seeing does the reorganization.
Yes.
And his overthrow heaped happiness upon him. Imagine saying that to your mom and dad, or to somebody in the street and explaining that. But there's nothing more true that I've ever heard.
Where's that from? That's from Henry VIII. What a great love it is for the love of truth. And when you have the love of truth, you have the love of life. Through truth, you find that love, and through love, you find that truth. It is a reciprocal relationship, all within the fledgling soul, who, to use the words, is given wings and takes flight. When they enter into that light and begin to understand all of that is about their relationship with the divine. See you later.